It's 8:30. It's time to talk to our guests of this morning on this distinctly arts-flavoured Good Morning Portugal show. Let's give them a nice big round of applause. Lonny McLaughlin and Eduardo Fischer-Torres. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Listen to that rapturous applause for you. How are you this morning?
Great. Good.
Excellent, excellent. How has the weather been? Lonny, let me start with you, Lonny. How has your weather in Porto overnight?
Flashing black skies. That's all I know. I didn't hear anything. I just
Did you not? You sleep well?
I heard there was a thunderstorm out there.
Well, in other parts of Portugal, it's been extraordinary. Check this out. This is what other people have been experiencing. This is Hollywood stuff, quite frankly, as though it were AI or generated by a student. Isn't that amazing? What about you, Eduardo? Did you experience anything like that in Porto last night?
I did. I actually slept through.
Excellent. You. How lovely. How lovely. Now, you're both here to tell us about your wonderful exhibition that's coming up in Porto, which I love the part of the copy here tells us how you're bridging the gap between canvas and cloth, which I think brings together your respective skill sets. Eduardo, you have a connection to fashion. Lonny, you're an artist. I want to set the scene, though, and find out how you got to be in Portugal in the first place and how easy it is to connect with your creativity. So, Lonny, if we can start with you. We've had you on the show from time to time. And it wasn't. We talked about other things other than art. But how long have you been an artist? And how has that been, the transition of becoming or releasing your creativity over here?
Well, I've been an artist most of my life. I started painting. I started painting when I was 13 or so. But my art has come and gone. I have periods where I'm really prolific, and then I don't do anything for a couple of years, and et cetera, et cetera. My intention of moving to Portugal was to study art and paint full time. So, I started painting when I got here, and this is the culmination of my practice and my first exhibition in Europe. And I'm excited about that. And I had a small studio show and invited 10 friends to come over and take a look at what I was doing. It's the first time I've shown it in Portugal. Eduardo was one of those people. Eduardo and I have been really great friends, he and his husband, since I moved here. And I got a lot of encouragement that I should have a show. And Eduardo was making really beautiful clothing. And he came to me later and said, this piece would make a beautiful fabric.
Wow.
How do you feel about me having fabrics made using your work? And that's how it started.
How wonderful. How wonderful. And have you found Porto to be especially inspiring for the work you're doing? And I'm endeavoring to bring it onto the screen. Oh, here we go. Sorry to obscure you both for the moment, but this is your work here, Lonny. Has this been directly inspired by being in Portugal?
Well, yes. Though all this series is were influenced by the walls of Porto. I found myself taking snapshots of peeling paint, aging walls, granite with lichen, and I had this massive collection of aging walls. And when I would go back to some of those areas, they were gone with the renovations happening, et cetera, et cetera. And so I began painting and recreating the mood of that, the vibe of that, before it's gone.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And then Eduardo, can you explain your connection to this? You come from a fashion background previously, do you? And then you saw these and thought these would make great fabrics.
Actually, I don't come from a fashion background.
Oh, right.
No, in fact, what happened was the beginning of last year, I decided I needed a hobby, something else to do to keep me busy. And so I bought myself a sewing machine and started making myself clothes. And here I am launching my brand this month. So it's gone crazy.
Hold on a minute. So, my assumption was, yeah, you know, long-standing interest in fashion, or even from the industry. But this is a hobby you've cultivated, picked up, and run with
Yeah,
since being in Portugal just recently.
just recently, the beginning of last year. I mean, I've always been into fashion. I've always felt like, you know, I was worried about what I was going to wear, but never would have ever thought that I would be making clothes. So
That's amazing. That's
here I
amazing.
am.
What
Yeah.
sort? What did you start with then? How did this unfold?
So we had a bedspread that we bought here in Porto, and you know, it just kept falling off the bed, just kept sliding off the bed. And I said, you know, I'm so done with this thing, but I'm going to make something with it.
Right.
Wasn't sure what I was going to do. And so when I bought my sewing machine, I said, well, maybe I'll make myself a hoodie. And so I did. And then a friend of mine who was visiting, invited me to attend a sustainable fashion tour here in Porto. And I said, okay, I'll wear it. I mean, it's a hoodie that I made from a bedspread, and then I used the dog leash as a drawstring. And so, you know, I was wearing it at this sustainable fashion tour, and I was getting compliments. And I said, well, maybe I have something going
You're
on here.
onto something. Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So, is there a thing then? Is there a scene in Porto to do with you know, or haberdashery, I suppose, and fashion design and so on? I mean, it's an industrial part of Portugal for sure. But is there a specific fashion or what's it called? What's that trade called? But are they making clothes up there? Is that a thing in Porto?
There is. I had initially, there are fashion designers here.
Right.
The northern part of Portugal has a huge uh, clothing manufacturing business companies. So it is it's pretty big up here.
Yeah.
I haven't really, you know, delved into what exactly organizations are specifically in Porto as it relates to fashion. So, but I'll get there. I do have some other fashion designers here in Porto that are now following me on Instagram. So hopefully
That's
someday I'll meet
terrific.
them. Yeah,
So presumably you weren't expecting this to happen. This is just came
not at
from
all.
buying the sewing machine and getting going on that.
Yeah, not this. I would have, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, what do you want to do in 5 years? This this probably wouldn't be it. But I'm
Well,
enjoying it.
yes, it looks like, and now an exhibition as well. That which is wonderful. Thanks, Eduardo. Lonny, so how easy is it to find a place to exhibit? Because that's the obvious and natural thing to do, and I'm sure your friends were saying, you know, you've got to show these, you've got to do an exhibition. For anyone thinking of doing that, who's moved to Portugal, picking up their hobby or their lifetime interest in something, maybe specifically with their art here. How easy is it to get a show going, and how hospitable, welcoming are locals in helping you to do that?
Well, one of the things that I really appreciate about Portugal, and it's I found it all over Portugal, is uh, the social aspect of living here. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody about anything you're interested in, and I was in a photography studio having some of my work photographed, and an artist came in and said, "Oh my God, I really love your work." We had a long conversation about my work, and he said, "I have a gallery. Would you be interested in showing your work?"
Brilliant.
And I said, "Okay, I'm not quite there yet." I said, "What do you? How many pieces are you thinking?" He said, "Oh, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30." And I had been painting, so I had probably 40 pieces at the time,
Mm,
and so that's how it started. It was relationship based, and since that happened, a graphic designer walked in and offered to help, and everyone's just sort of jumping in and supporting this happening, and it's a big breakthrough for me to give up control. Let people participate and contribute, and bring their expertise to a gallery exhibition in Portugal, which I would never have known how to do. So
amazing, which has led to this exhibition that's coming up. So it opens on the 15th of November. And so this is the gallery, is it, that where they said, will you come and do a show? Galleria Catapulta.
yeah,
Sounds like an interesting place.
yeah.
The collaboration of you both, friends, artist Lonny McLaughlin and designer Eduardo Fischer-Torres, merge painting and fashion into a single expressive language featuring paintings, monotypes, limited edition fine art prints, and a limited edition menswear collection that bridges canvas and cloth. Can we learn more about that then? How has the transition been made from canvas to cloth, Eduardo? What did you actually do?
So first of all, I had to get the digital prints from Lonny for the two pieces of art that I was going to use. And I found a super sweet gentleman down in Lisbon who was willing to do a small batch of fabric for me and have it printed. And
Wow.
so yeah, I was sent him the digital art and put it on fabric. I have two different types of fabric, cotton, and then there's another cotton and linen blend. And then there's two prints. So it wasn't that. It was a little bit of a challenge trying to find someone up in the north because most organizations that I was reaching out to wanted to do the full production.
Yes.
And I'm small batch and just very limited edition clothing. So the guy down in Lisbon was just perfect for me.
How lovely, how lovely. And then you took them back and made the things on your newfound sewing machine.
My
How
little
was that? How was buying a sewing machine in Portugal? Was that fairly straightforward?
actually, that was pretty easy. What I was doing was going on YouTube and trying to find out what type of machine should I buy, and what caliber of machine do I need. And so there is a sewing machine not far from where I live, and so I went in there and said I need this machine because this is what's being highly recommended. And so they said we have it here, so it
Go
was
for it.
easy.
Amazing. Antonio F's here. Bom dia a todos. Portuguese fashion designers Fatima Lopes, Ana Salazar,
Yeah.
Luis Buchinho, Nuno Gama, Maria Gambinha, and Kati Jamara, etc., are the most famous. Who knew? Thank you for opening this door up for me this morning into. It's not something we've talked about much on the Good Morning Portugal show. Portugal also famous for its cobblers. Of course, the shoe industry, textiles was the word I was looking for. So textiles and fashion industry obviously alive and well here, and you're making a contribution towards it. Want to chat a little bit, if we may, about Porto, because on Monday evening's Good Morning Portugal wine club, we had our friend Frank, who's newly moved to Porto. He was absolutely singing the praises of Porto. You're obviously big fans of the city. I'd like to hear a bit more about your love for the place. Lonny, what was it? I can't remember now what it was that made you choose Porto, and what is it you love so much about being there, so that others around the world can hear a little bit of love for Porto?
Well, I considered moving to Europe during COVID, and I started watching. To be honest, I had disconnected from social media, news media, all of the chaos that was happening in our country that was going on around me, and I just needed to unplug from all of that. And I looked at Portugal, and I Googled. I don't remember exactly what the prompt was. Videos of Portugal without words, no commentary. And I found this. I found these videos. I do remember. I do know the guy's name. I just can't remember it. He was walking around during COVID with a phone just through the Porto streets.
Yeah.
And there was no music. There was nothing. It was just hours and hours of video. This man walking through the streets during COVID time. Nobody out much. And I was really dumbstruck, awestruck by the architecture and the beauty of the city and the age of the city. I love history. And I decided that I was going to move to Porto on that basis. And it was like, okay, I'm coming for the beauty of Portugal. What a more beautiful place to come. and I committed to living here for a year. And if I didn't like it, I'd move elsewhere.
That didn't happen, right?
It didn't. Then 2 months later, 3 months later, I happened to pull up Good Morning Portugal, and you and I met.
Yes.
And I was here quickly. I came very quickly, and I have had zero regret. I traveled all over Portugal, but I really love Porto specifically, and Porto municipality, the kindness of the people, the calmness of people's interacting.
Yeah.
I've had nothing but love and great respect and deep appreciation from people, and vice versa. I have wonderful Portuguese friends here.
Yeah, clearly. I'm lucky enough to meet a few of them. And your journey here, your life here has been the most amazing, really, isn't it? With falling in love and getting married here.
Well, that's a ridiculous, that's a completely ridiculously embarrassing story. I came here with the intention of being a single artist in this chapter of my life, and had no interest in being in a relationship. And I met a gentleman, and he really is a gentleman. I met this gentleman in a coffee shop. Very nice, lovely, meeting, and here we are married. We got married in August.
That escalated quickly.
4 years after meeting this person, and changed my life, changed my mind, and I have an extraordinary relationship, and
How beautiful.
Portuguese man.
And an artist with an exhibition coming up soon. How lovely that there are all these wonderful things to celebrate.
Well, if I could, I want to go back to this humble. Eduardo is very humble. One of the things about his work is he's committed that all of his work is made in Portugal, Portugal's fabrics, Portuguese printed the fabric. It's handmade. Each piece he makes by hand in Portugal. If he needs any coaching or guidance, he talks to Portuguese seamstresses, and it's all about Portugal. He's using nothing from outside of Portugal. So I think that's worth talking about regarding his brand.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to hear more about. Thanks, Lonny, for the time being. I'd love to hear more about your story, Eduardo. So, what made you choose? Before we talk about your a special angle on fashion, there, what made you choose Porto?
Well, initially, it was supposed to be Lisbon. My husband and I came to Portugal in 2015 for the very first time. In fact, it was our honeymoon that brought us to Portugal, and we landed in Lisbon, and then immediately fell in love with the city. And within a couple of days, I said, I think I could live here, and he agreed. And so we started talking about retirement here, and we kept coming back and visiting Lisbon, and we started seeing more growth in Lisbon. And we said, well, maybe we need something a little bit more smaller town vibe. And so we came up to Porto and immediately fell in love. We've been here 5 years now.
Amazing. Those words are great, aren't they? We could live here. It's lovely how Portugal sneaks up on people like that, isn't it? Just popping over for a few days or holidays. Like, you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is so conducive to the sort of life I'd like. I can live here. And me and Mrs. M have done that so many times in so many different places as well. We've got a name for it. That's lovely. So that's how you got to be in the country, and now obviously you've cultivated your hobby here of making things with this brilliant niche that Lonny's talking about. So everything has to be sort of provenance appropriately and Portugal related. What made you do that? What was your inspiration for that?
I think it was just a commitment that I made that if I was going to launch this brand, there's so many Portuguese that have helped me.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah. Is that quite moving for you as well? Oh, how lovely!
Yeah.
How lovely! Because I saw a wonderful brand here in Portugal called Isto, who make sure they're all about the supply chain and transparency of pricing, and this is, I think, really modest stuff. with Portugal as well. They don't make a massive big deal about it, but I get the sense that things like this are happening all over the country, including your contribution to that as well, Eduardo. And you've an offer here, more kindness. If Eduardo wants to learn to knit or use a peg loom or spinning wheel, I'm happy to share my knowledge. That's Jackie who's coming over to Central Portugal,
That's great.
sharing there.
Great. I have done some knitting, but very limiting scarves and beanies, but I have done it.
Yeah. It's great sense this morning of our how we've been affected by Portuguese people, Portuguese culture, and Portuguese love. And it might not take very much more for us all to be weeping here in just a moment with that. Well done with your exhibition journey. Sounds incredible from Queen and Convict there. Well, so thank you both. Good luck with this, starting on the 15th of November. If we can still speak at the moment, I wonder if I could have a couple of sort of parting shots from you both about encouragement to others, to immerse in a hobby, to pick a hobby, to connect with Portugal in that way. What would you say on that, Eduardo?
Just go with your gut and just do it. There's people that are willing to help and want to jump in and help you succeed.
Yes, as Lonny found there just by popping in to have some work photographed. Eduardo, all the best to you with this exhibition. Thank you so much for being this morning. What about you, Lonny? What's your words of advice for people thinking about Portugal, coming here, spending their life here, and connecting with a lifelong hobby, perhaps?
Well, Eduardo said it best. Just go for it. There's only so much hanging out and wine drinking you can do. At some point, you're like, okay, how am I going to spend this chapter? What am I going to do?
Yes.
Well, this is a perfect place to explore what that might be. Ask around, find out what other people are doing. But the community here, particularly here in Porto, is extremely supportive and participatory. And all you do is open your mouth and start talking to people, and you'll be guided. You'll find your way.
Yes, and that quiet Portuguese countenance will open its heart to you and be very supportive, as we've discovered this morning. Coach Turner saying, what wonderful and inspiring stories. Gentlemen, all the best with it, and let us know how it goes. And thank you for being here this morning. Much appreciated.
Great, Carl. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you for being here. Bye for now. Right, there they go. Lonny and Eduardo this morning on the Good Morning Portugal show. I'm not crying, you are. Stop it. Right. Okay. That's lovely.